culture change across time and space in different societies? What is the impact of globalization, increased migration and transnationalism, as well as life choices in cultural change and cultural diversity? The first concept we will look is migration. Migration is a concept you are all familiar with. In its most simple sense, it refers to a person or a group of people moving from one place to another. This can be within a country or beyond a country's political and administrative borders. While migration refers to the migrants' movement in space, transnationalism refers to how these migrants' structures of social networks, cultural practices, and economic activities are located beyond national borders. Cultural globalization, on the other hand, focuses on the travel of ideas, meanings, and values, that is, everything related to the culture. What has created globalization and transnationalism is, first of all, increased mobility through better and cheaper transportation. And second, it is the internet and other mediums of communication, which have developed so much that distance has lost its traditional meaning in terms of access to cultural values and meanings. Increased mobility and increased communication create new interactions between cultures. In the first part of this unit, we said that the media you follow and your encounters with other cultures influences your own culture, who you are. As you come across new cultures, you may choose to adapt some of the new things you encounter to your lifestyle. So, beyond who you were born and taught to be by your family and environment, your choices will define who you are. You can marry out of your cultural group, migrate to a different country, go to university and take an online course on intercultural communication from various scholars around the world. All your interactions, provided through globalization, help make you who you are. Next, let's look at the concepts of minorities and diaspora. Minorities are groups of people in a specific country who are culturally, ethnically, or racially distinct. Sometimes migrants who arrive in big numbers are also seen as minorities in a country, but usually migrants are accepted as diasporas if they still have a homeland orientation, a desire to go back to the homeland, and where they come from is still important for them. So they protect their boundaries with other cultural groups. So this desire or dream to return back can be protected even in further generations that may have lived in the host country for all their lives. If we give an example, a Greek who has for generations and generations have lived in Turkey, a predominantly Islamic country, that Greek individual is part of the Greek minority. In Turkey, Greeks are recognized as a religious minority by law, and they have the right to have linguistic and religious education. If a Greek who have for generations to come lived in Athens migrates to Turkey for work, that individual, on the other hand, is part of Greek diaspora in Turkey and treated as any other migrant by law. The two Greeks can come together and share the same language and religion and some cultural norms and values. But having lived all the time in Turkey and the other one in Greece, they may find out the differences in their culture have influenced a lot from with whom they lived with and the norms and values of the society they have lived in. So there are many minorities and diasporas around the world. What about your country, your community? Are there any minorities or diasporas? Have you yourself or your family moved from one place to another? Think about if you migrated from one city to another in your home country. What would have changed for you? Most likely, the language will be the same, and you would be familiar with what is acceptable behavior in your culture. The variety of food choices may increase if you move from a rural area to an urban area. What about if you moved to Europe? Most likely, you would have heard about how people live their lives there. Maybe you would speak the local language, or in most European countries, you would be speaking English, and you can communicate through the medium of English. What about if you came to Turkey? In the next video, you will hear from an Indian scholar married to a Turkish man, living and working and raising her kids in the metropolitan city of Istanbul.